The lecture hall curved like an amphitheater, tiers of polished stone descending toward the central podium where Dr. Kaler Vynn stood. His presence carried the authority of centuries of scholarship, his long coat rustling softly as he activated the holosphere. A cascade of images shimmered above him, ruins half buried in dust, fragments of vessels long since corroded, skeletal outlines of a species consigned to legend. Humanity, he began, his tone deliberate, was once a force that bent the galaxy toward both progress and ruin. Their ambition knew no limits. Their wars scarred entire systems. Their ingenuity shaped technologies we still struggle to comprehend. And yet, they are gone. Extinct. A vanished civilization. The statement carried weight, as if he had delivered it countless times before. Around the amphitheater, dozens of students sat in quiet awe. Their faces, scaled, feathered, metallic, or otherwise alien, glimmered in the light of the projections. Some scribbled notes in rapid strokes. Others leaned forward, mesmerized by the relics of a people they had never known. Among them sat Joran Malik, broad-shouldered, his angular features softened by the faint sheen of his pale green skin. His dark eyes followed the imagery with disciplined focus, though an unease gnawed at him. He prided himself on precision, on discipline, and yet something about the lecture felt rehearsed, as though more lay beneath than was spoken. Beside him, a quieter figure shifted in his seat. Alaric Dane, lean and sharp-eyed, had always carried an air of distance. His hair was darker than the norm, his features sharper, his build unfamiliar. He listened without taking notes, his gaze fixed not on the professor, but on the spectral ruins flickering above. There was a tension in his posture, as though the words carried a private sting. Dr. Vynn's lecture continued, tracing the trajectory of humanity's rise and collapse. The council classified them as extinct over 7 centuries ago. Their homeworld, Earth, rendered uninhabitable after their final Great War. Their colonies absorbed by stronger neighbors, their fleets dismantled or destroyed. Their bloodlines scattered and diluted until none remained. That, class, is the fate of humanity. Whispers rippled among the students. Some whispered admiration at humanity's ambition, others muttered disdain at their arrogance. To them, humanity was both warning and myth, a story to dissect but never to meet. Alaric's fingers curled against the surface of his desk. His jaw tightened. He had heard this lesson before, in other words, by other instructors, but the dissonance had only grown sharper with time. He had always felt out of place, always wondered why his reflection in a mirror seemed to bear resemblance to the illustrations buried in these archives. When Dr. Vynn asked for questions, silence lingered for a moment. Then, Alaric lifted his hand. The motion drew more than a few glances. He rarely spoke in class. Yes, Dane? Vynn's tone carried the usual practiced patience. Alaric's voice emerged low but steady. If humanity is extinct, then what am I? The silence that followed was absolute. Dozens of eyes turned toward him, confusion etched across alien expressions. Joran stiffened, his gaze darting between Alaric and the professor. Dr. Vynn's brow furrowed. Explain yourself. Alaric's stare did not waver. You've shown us their likeness, their ruins, their history. But everything you've described, every face, every figure, it matches mine. My blood heals too quickly. My body endures where others falter. I dream of places I've never seen, faces I should not know. So if they're gone, if they're nothing but ash and memory, then tell me, Professor, what am I? Gasps and whispers broke like a storm. Some students leaned away, as if proximity alone might be dangerous. Others leaned forward with morbid fascination. Dr. Vynn raised a hand for silence, though his own composure wavered. He studied Alaric with renewed scrutiny, as if seeing him for the first time. Coincidence, he said at last, though the word rang hollow. Your resemblance is an echo, nothing more. Many species carry genetic overlaps from intermingled lineages. You are not human. But you don't know that, Alaric pressed, his tone sharpened by long-suppressed frustration. You claim certainty about extinction, but where is the proof? If I exist, then your history is wrong. The lecture hall vibrated with the weight of the challenge. Students muttered, some dismissing Alaric as delusional, others unsettled by the logic of his words. Joran felt his chest tighten, torn between loyalty to his peer and the certainty drilled into him since childhood. Dr. Vynen's gaze hardened. Enough. Humanity is gone. Whatever you believe yourself to be, you are not their heir. The council has decreed this truth, and it is not yours to question. Alaric lowered his hand, but did not break eye contact. The flicker of defiance in his eyes unsettled even the professor. The holosphere dimmed, and the class was dismissed in uneasy silence. Students filed out in hurried murmurs, glancing at Alaric as though he had stepped beyond the boundary of what was safe to ask. Joran lingered, his mind heavy with unspoken questions. He wanted to dismiss Alaric's claim as arrogance, yet he could not erase the uncanny resemblance between his friend's features and the figures etched into history's fragments. As the hall emptied, Dr. Vynen stood frozen at the podium, his expression caught between anger and something closer to fear. Alaric remained in his seat, shoulders squared, gaze fixed on the professor as though daring him to deny what he already knew in his bones. And though the lecture was over, the true lesson had only begun. The corridors of the academy were hushed when Dr. Vynen sent for Alaric and Joran. The summons came through private channels, discreet but urgent, as though the professor feared the very walls might carry whispers. Joran hesitated at the threshold of Vynen's office before stepping inside, his posture tense. Alaric entered with sharper resolve, though his eyes carried a storm. The chamber was dim, lined with shelves of ancient records and sealed archives that smelled faintly of dust and age. Dr. Vynen stood at the center, hands clasped behind his back, his expression carved from stone. He waited until the door sealed shut before speaking. What you said today, he began, his voice low, was reckless. The council does not tolerate speculation about humanity's survival. To speak it aloud is to court suspicion you cannot afford. Alaric folded his arms. You didn't deny it. Not really. Joran's gaze darted between them. Professor, surely this is a misunderstanding. Dane's words were taken out of context. No, Alaric said firmly. I meant every one of them. Dr. Vynen studied him, the weight of centuries of scholarship flickering in his eyes. At last he sighed. There are rumors, always have been. Whispers of remnants scattered across forgotten colonies. Fragments of their blood carried in secret. But the council has deemed them dangerous myths, for a reason. Dangerous? Joran asked. Humanity was dangerous, Vynen replied, his tone sharpened. They adapted faster than any other race, thrived in the harshest conditions, and in their wars they wielded ferocity unmatched. The council fears what their return could mean, a resurgence of chaos, ambition unchecked. If you are what you claim, Dane, then your very existence would be treated as a threat. Alaric stepped closer, his voice edged with challenge. So, instead of searching for the truth, they chose to bury it. Vynen's silence was answer enough. He gestured toward a sealed container on his desk, sliding it forward. With a subtle motion, he activated its lock, and a holographic display unfurled. The projection revealed scattered fragments of history, fleets vanishing into uncharted regions, references to sleeping vaults hidden in the dark between stars, accounts never made public. These are restricted records, Vynen said, his voice almost reluctant. They suggest humanity did not simply die. Some may have chosen exile, preservation, or silence. But to pursue this knowledge is forbidden. The Council believes that if humanity awakens, the balance of the galaxy will fracture. Joran stared at the fragments in awe, his skepticism faltering. Then Alaric might be proof. Proof they were wrong. That proof, Vynen cut in, would put a target on his back. If others knew what he was, they would not revere him. They would hunt him. Alaric studied the holographic shards as though they were pieces of a puzzle he had long carried in his dreams. His chest tightened with a strange familiarity, fleets scattering into the void, voices choosing to sleep rather than perish. It echoed the instincts he had never been able to explain. "I was found on a fringe colony," he said quietly, not looking away from the images. "An orphan, no record of my origin. But my body heals faster than any medic can explain. I endure where others falter. And I see places I have never stood. Cities of glass, skies that burn with blue, voices that call me by names I do not know. You say I am not human, Professor, but every breath I take tells me otherwise." For a moment, Dr. Vynn allowed himself to soften. There was no mockery in Alaric's tone, no arrogance, only certainty forged in isolation. The historian exhaled, the burden of truth pressing heavy on his shoulders. "You may very well be right," Vynn admitted. "But if you are, then you must be cautious. The galaxy has chosen to forget humanity, and it will not remember them kindly." Joran shifted uneasily. His loyalty warred with fear, yet Alaric's words lingered. He had seen his companion heal from wounds that would cripple others. He had seen him run longer, fight harder, endure where all else failed. Could it truly be chance? Or had he been blind to the truth standing beside him? "What do we do, then?" Joran asked. Alaric's gaze flicked toward him, steady and resolute. "We find out what happened. If there are others, if there's proof, then the Council's version of history crumbles. Humanity isn't gone. It's hidden." Dr. Vynn closed the archive, the light collapsing into silence. "If you pursue this, you risk everything. The Council will not hesitate to erase anyone who threatens their narrative. I should turn you in now for your own safety." And yet, he paused, his voice quieting. "The truth matters. More than my loyalty to decrees, more than fear. But you must understand, once you seek it, you cannot turn back." Alaric did not flinch. "I was never meant to hide. Whatever the Council fears, I'll face it." Vynn studied him a final time, then inclined his head, a gesture heavy with resignation. "Then listen carefully. Seek the archives buried beneath this academy, in the vaults even I am forbidden to enter. There you may find the first thread, but tread lightly. You will not be the only one searching." The professor dismissed them with a flick of his hand, though his eyes lingered on Alaric as though memorizing his face. Joran followed his companion out into the corridor, silence hanging heavy between them. At last, Joran spoke. "You understand what this means, don't you? If you're right, if you truly are human, you've just declared yourself enemy of the most powerful council in existence." Alaric's stride did not falter. "Then let them see what humanity really is." And with those words, the fragile order of their world began to crack. The academy had never felt so loud. Whispers spread through its marble corridors like wildfire, each retelling sharpening the edges of rumor until truth and invention blurred. Alaric's question during the lecture was no longer a private challenge, but a story retold in hushed voices. Some students regarded him with furtive awe, as though a myth had stepped into their midst. Others gave him wary glances, as though proximity itself might draw unwanted scrutiny. A few, bolder in their disdain, muttered that he was a fraud, a pretender seeking attention. Joran felt the tension more keenly than anyone. Walking beside Alaric through the dining hall, he caught fragments of gossip cutting through the air. "The human boy, the council won't let this stand, dangerous blood." He clenched his jaw, ready to defend his companion against insult, yet Alaric carried himself with a calm that only deepened the unease of those around him. He neither confirmed nor denied the whispers, merely endured them with that steady, searching gaze. At night, under cover of shadows, Joran followed Alaric into the labyrinth beneath the academy. The tunnels smelled of stale air and ancient dust, conduits that had not felt the weight of footsteps in generations. At their end lay a sealed chamber, its gates etched with runes of prohibition. With shaking hands, Joran produced the access shard Dr. Vynn had pressed into Alaric's palm. "You're sure about this?" Joran whispered, the silence pressing heavy against his words. Alaric's expression was resolute. "We don't stop now." The shard pulsed once, twice, then the gate groaned open. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the smell of forgotten ages. Within lay row after row of databanks, crystalline towers glowing faintly with power drawn from some hidden source. Their surfaces flickered with fractured light, as though alive with memory. Together, they approached the first console. Joran's fingers hovered uncertainly before Alaric placed his hand upon the surface. The machine flared awake, its interface rippling like disturbed water. Lines of text and image unfurled, fragments of humanity's past. They found records of fleets scattering into deep space, each vessel bearing families, soldiers, and scientists fleeing annihilation. Fragments spoke of sleeping vaults, hidden sanctuaries where humanity preserved its bloodline in cryogenic stillness, waiting for an age when the galaxy's hostility had waned. Joran's voice cracked with disbelief. All this time, they weren't gone. They were surviving. Alaric's chest tightened. The words felt like vindication, yet also burden. If vaults existed, then humanity had not perished but chosen silence. Why, then, had the Council buried this truth so completely? Before the thought could settle, an alarm blared, a sharp, grating note reverberating through the chamber. The databank shuddered as panels sealed shut, their light fading. "They know," Alaric hissed. Bootsteps thundered down the corridors, armored and unyielding. A squad of enforcers burst into the vault, their weapons trained on the intruders. Their commander's voice carried no mercy. "Step away. The archives are forbidden." Joran raised his hands instinctively, but Alaric did not move. The enforcers closed in, and one lunged to seize him. Instinct flared. Before thought could intervene, Alaric twisted, driving an elbow into the soldier's chest with startling precision. The man stumbled back, winded. Another advanced, only to be caught in a sweep of Alaric's arm that disarmed him in a blink. Joran watched in stunned silence as Alaric fought, not with training but with instinct etched into bone and blood. Every motion was efficient, decisive, as though some buried memory guided him. The enforcers faltered, their certainty rattled. The commander barked an order, but before the squad could regroup, the chamber's far wall hissed open. Dr. Vynen emerged from the shadows, his expression strained but unyielding. "Enough," he commanded. "Stand down." The enforcers froze, uncertain whether to obey. Vynen stepped between them and the boys, his eyes hard. "I will answer for this breach. Return to your posts." After a tense moment, the commander relented with a bitter curse. The squad withdrew, their footsteps fading into the dark. Joran exhaled in relief, his pulse racing. Alaric remained still, shoulders taut, eyes fixed on Vynen. The professor regarded him gravely. "You are what you believe, Dane. That much is clear. But the Council will not allow this truth to surface. They will silence you, and they will destroy what remains of your kind if they discover it." "Then help me find them," Alaric said. His voice carried no plea, only conviction. Vynen's eyes flickered, torn between duty and the weight of history. At last, he pressed a small data core into Alaric's hand. "This will guide you beyond the Academy, to a system long erased from star charts. If humanity left a trace, it will be there." Joran stared at the device as though it were both treasure and curse. "You're sending us to our deaths." "Perhaps," Vynen said softly. "Or perhaps to your beginning. Either way, the Academy is no longer safe. Leave before dawn. The Council's gaze will fall on you soon enough." The air between them thickened with finality. Vynen turned away, his shoulders heavy, as though the act of defiance had aged him years. Alaric closed his fist around the core. He glanced once at Joran, who still looked torn between fear and loyalty, then toward the exit that led back into the maze of tunnels. "We'll go," he said, voice steady. "And we won't come back until the truth is ours." The chamber door sealed behind them, muffling the silence of centuries once more. Somewhere above, the Academy carried on with its daily rhythm, unaware that its order had fractured in the vaults below. For Alaric and Joran, there was no turning back. The hunt had begun. The journey carried them far from the ordered spires of the Academy into a region of space whispered about only in half-forgotten tales. Their vessel, a modest courier ship acquired under false registration, drifted through the wreckage of shattered worlds. Silence pressed against the hull, broken only by the hum of engines and the occasional groan of metal stressed by the emptiness outside. Joran remained at the controls, his knuckles pale against the console. Alaric stood at the viewport, eyes drawn to the graveyard of ships that stretched into the void. "They fought here," Alaric murmured, his voice subdued. "Not just battles, wars meant to erase." Wreckage glimmered like broken teeth, the remains of cruisers and carriers too ancient to name. Some bore markings half-buried by corrosion, others floated hollow, stripped of life. Joran adjusted their trajectory, unease written across his features. If the Council erased this system from the charts, then whatever lies ahead isn't meant to be found. "Which means it's exactly where we need to go," Alaric replied. The data core from VYNN pulsed faintly, guiding them toward a solitary asteroid veiled in the system's shadow. As they drew closer, geometric scars became visible across its surface, massive panels disguised as stone. With a shudder, the asteroid revealed itself, not rock, but a vault engineered with precision beyond its age. They descended through an opening that yawned like the mouth of a slumbering giant. Inside, the cavern stretched vast, its walls braced with steel older than empires. Ranks of cryogenic chambers lined the interior, glowing with a faint, ghostly blue. Thousands of them, row upon row, each containing a still form. Joran's breath caught. Stars above. Alaric stepped forward, as if pulled by instinct. His hand hovered over the glass of the nearest chamber, where a man lay suspended in frozen sleep, his features uncannily familiar. Angular jaw, steady brow, a mirror of Alaric himself. The sight rooted him to the floor. For the first time, the restless visions that had haunted his dreams coalesced into reality. He was not alone. Humanity had not vanished. They had endured, hidden here in silent defiance of time. A console at the center of the chamber flickered awake as he approached. A projection shimmered into being, a figure cloaked in faded robes, its voice fractured by centuries of decay. "To those who find this place, know that we are not gone. We chose silence, to sleep until the galaxy could accept our return. If you are one of us, then awaken our kin. If you are not, then guard this place, for it carries the heart of a people who would not yield." The words struck Alaric with the force of destiny. Joran, though overwhelmed, felt the truth sink into his bones. Their friend, the boy mocked as a pretender, was not an accident. He was heir to a legacy deliberately preserved. The moment fractured as alarms howled through the vault. A new light washed across the cavern, the crimson glow of weapons fire. The enforcers had followed. Armored figures stormed through the entrance, their commander's voice sharp. "Seal the vault. Destroy the sleepers. End this heresy." Blaster fire cut through the air, striking consoles and scattering sparks. Joran pulled Alaric behind cover, his heart hammering. "We're outnumbered. We can't hold them." Alaric's grip tightened on a fallen soldier's weapon, though his movements carried no hesitation. He rose, firing with precision he had never been taught. Each shot was instinctive, guided by something buried deeper than memory. His body moved with the rhythm of warriors who had once stood unbroken against extinction. The enforcers faltered at the ferocity of his defense. Joran, emboldened, joined him, though the tide pressed harder with every passing second. The cryo-chambers shuddered under stray fire, frost cracking across their surfaces. Alaric shouted above the chaos, "If we lose here, humanity dies a second time." His words ignited something in Joran. Together, they drove back the closest wave, covering the central console. Alaric's hands danced across its surface, unlocking commands that surged from some half-remembered instinct. Systems roared to life, protective barriers flaring across the vault. For a heartbeat, the chamber belonged to them again. The commander advanced, blade drawn, his voice filled with venom. "You are a mistake, boy. The galaxy will not suffer the return of your kind. Alaric met his charge head-on. Their clash rang like thunder in the vault, weapon against blade, instinct against training. The commander's strikes were brutal, efficient, but Alaric fought with a fire that belonged to a people who had refused annihilation. With a final surge, he disarmed the man and cast him sprawling to the floor. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of damaged systems. The surviving enforcers dragged their fallen leader back, retreating into the shadows with promises of retribution. Joran stumbled to Alaric's side, blood streaking his arm, his breathing ragged. They'll be back, stronger. With the council behind them, Alaric's gaze swept the endless rows of sleeping forms. His voice steadied, carrying the weight of conviction. Then we'll be ready. Humanity isn't gone. It never was. And when these vaults awaken, the galaxy will remember us, not as relics, not as myths, but as survivors. Joran followed his gaze, awe and fear tangled in equal measure. Do you really think they can rise again? After all this time? Alaric's eyes burned with certainty. They will, because I did. The vault hummed around them, its lights flaring brighter, as though recognizing that its long silence had finally ended. Outside, the galaxy remained unaware, balanced on the edge of revelation. Inside, the truth had been unearthed, and nothing would ever be the same again.